Okay, let's dive in. Have you ever really, really, stopped to think about what time actually is? Not just clocks and calendars, but its actual nature? Today we're exploring a really unusual, quite spiritual take on time from a source called The Fabric of Time, a spiritual reality.
Yeah, and our goal here is to unpack how this source just completely turns our usual ideas about time upside down. We're going way beyond just, time flowing like a river. We'll touch on individual existence, parallel realities, and maybe most importantly, why your present moment is given such, well, profound weight.
Right, so maybe prepare to question some things. Because this source, it doesn't see time as some universal constant. Instead, it talks about many clocks, and each one has its own time.
Mm.
Think about that. It suggests there isn't one single same time everywhere
Mm.
for everyone.
And what's really interesting is how subjective time becomes when someone's isolated. Like, if someone lived totally alone, their feeling of much time has passed is purely internal, right? Just perception. But the source says a shared idea of time, the kind we operate with, it only really emerges when two people encounter each other and pass by.
Huh. So it's like an agreement.
Exactly. It calls it a social construct, basically an agreement. It's not an absolute truth out there, but something we negotiate to coexist. Absolutely vital for society.
Wow. Okay. So if our shared external time is built on these agreements, what about internal time? Because it gets even stranger here. The source claims humans are, and this is a direct quote,
Mhm.
pregnant with another universe within their own physical bodies.
Right. It's a striking image. And inside that internal universe, well, the source describes various existences, think really small, like electrons, atoms, particles, constantly interacting, colliding. And these tiny internal collisions, they're not just movement. They are actually creating internal time.
So each interaction is like a tiny tick of an internal clock.
Yeah.
That's kind of wild.
It is a whole universe of time generation inside you.
Okay, that's the micro level. What about the bigger picture? Does it offer a visual for that?
It does. It uses this metaphor of time being like distinct beads, or you could think of them as worlds.
Hmm.
Each bead is described as self-contained. It holds its own material reality, its own unique time.
Beads, like on a string.
Sort of, yeah, we'll get to the strings. But first, the really radical part. The claim is that within these beads, yesterday, today, and tomorrow exist simultaneously.
Simultaneously. Okay, that breaks my brain a little. So not linear at all.
Not in the way we usually experience it, no. Now, it does say many beads might show identical actions, sort of parallel developments, but crucially, there are also deviant beads. These pop up because of special actions.
Meaning choices, different
It,
events.
it implies that, yes, even small things could potentially branch off into a different bead, a different outcome. And these beads, as you suggested, are strung on long threads. Each thread represents a whole distinct world or, well, timeline.
Okay, so we've got multiple timelines, these threads with beads.
Yeah.
Sounds a bit like a multiverse, but there's a catch, isn't there?
A very big one. The source is quite stark here. It states countless long threads and the beads of time-space at their ends have almost all failed in their evolution.
Failed. What does that mean, failed timelines?
It gives some pretty grim examples, actually. Worlds where radiation has increased too much and bugs have grown incredibly large, like building-sized. Or others where humans grew huge and cannibalistic or shrunk down tiny, really divergent, unsuccessful paths.
Yikes. So, where does that leave us? Our timeline.
According to this source, our current timeline is presented as the last hope,
Hmm.
the one desired by the creator, it says. And get this, it suggests beings or consciousness from all those failed timelines are sort of converging here onto our reality.
The last hope. Wow, no pressure then. So if we're the last hope and all these other timelines are failing, what are we supposed to do?
That leads directly to the core imperative, spiritual evolution. Specifically, the evolution of our soul or our true essence.
Spiritual evolution.
Yeah.
Okay. How does our evolution help those failed timelines?
It's directly linked. The idea is that our spiritual progress, our awakening here and now, isn't just for us. It's depicted as generating some kind of energy or shift that's necessary for the survival and potential awakening of all those other realities, too. It's a cosmic responsibility.
So our choices now ripple out across
Yeah.
potentially countless other worlds.
That's the implication. And one final piece. The source ties time directly to matter itself. It asserts that the material world in which we stand was created from this time, and that time must be given for the material world to be formed.
Meaning no time, no physical reality. Matter depends on time existing.
Essentially, yes, time is the foundation upon which material existence is built, according to this view.
What a trip. We've gone from time being personal to internal universes to parallel worlds on threads, failed realities, and landed on this huge sense of purpose for our present moment, for our spiritual growth. It really reframes everything.
It absolutely does. So the question it leaves you with is pretty profound. If your own spiritual evolution, right here in what's called the Last Hope timeline, is somehow the key to unlocking or awakening countless other failed realities, what does that really mean for the weight, the significance of every choice you make, every action you take right now? Makes you think, doesn't it?